The Lords of the North by Bernard Cornwell. Read by Richard Armitage. Come on, Wanre, nicht skriðan skeadugenga. From out of the one night slides the Shadow Walker. Beowulf.
He had been desperate to attack, and he leaped with the speed of eight-legged Sleipnir, Odin's famed horse. I took the man on the right first, the man who was still drawing his sword, and serpent breath came from the sky like a bolt of Thor's lightning, and her edge went through his helmet as if it were made of parchment. And Whitnera, obedient to the pressure of my knee, was already turning towards Sven as the spearman came for me. He should have thrust his blade into Whitnera's chest or neck, but instead he tried to ram the spear up into my ribs. And Whitnera twisted his right arm and he snapped at the man's face with his big teeth, and the man stumbled backwards, just avoiding the bite, and he lost his footing to sprawl on the grass, and I kept Whitnera turning left. My right foot was already free of the stirrup, and then I threw myself out of the saddle and dropped hard onto Sven. He was half tangled by the bench as he tried to stand, and I drove him down, thumping the wind from his belly, and then I found my feet, stood, and serpent breath was at Sven's throat. "Egil!" Sven called to the spearman, who had been driven back by Whitnera, but Egil dared not attack me while my sword was at his master's gullet. Bolty was whimpering. He had pissed himself. I could smell it and hear it dripping. Gelgil was standing very still, watching me, his narrow face expressionless. Hild was smiling. A half-dozen of Sven's other men were facing me, but none dared move because the tip of serpent breath, her blade smeared with blood, was at Sven's throat. Whitnera was beside me, teeth bared, one front hoof pawing at the ground and thumping very close to Sven's head. Sven was gazing up at me with his one eye that was filled with hate and fear, and suddenly I stepped away from him. "On your knees," I told him. "Egil!" Sven pleaded again. Egil, black-bearded and with gaping nostrils where the front of his nose had been chopped off in some fight, levelled his spear. "He dies if you attack," I said to Egil, touching Sven with serpent breath's tip. Egil sensibly stepped backwards, and I flicked serpent breath across Sven's face, drawing blood. "On your knees," I said again. And when he was kneeling, I leaned down and took his two swords from their scabbards and laid them beside my father's helmet on the table. "You want to kill the slaver?" I called back to Hild, gesturing at the swords. "No," she said. "Iseult would have killed him," I said. Iseult had been my lover and Hild's friend. "Thou shalt not kill," Hild said. It was a Christian commandment, and about as futile, I thought, as commanding the sun to go backwards. "Bolty," I spoke in Danish now. "Kill the slaver." I did not want Gelgil behind my back. Bolty did not move. He was too scared to obey me, but, to my surprise, his two daughters came and fetched Sven's swords. Gelgil tried to run, but the table was in his way, and one of the girls gave a wild swing that slashed across his skull, and he fell sideways. Then they savaged him. I did not watch, because I was guarding Sven, but I heard the slaver's cries and Hild's gasp of surprise, and I could see the astonishment on the faces of the men in front of me. The twin girls grunted as they hacked. Gelgil took a long time to die, and not one of Sven's men tried to save him, or to rescue their master. They all had weapons drawn, and if just one of them had possessed any sense, they would have realized that I dared not kill Sven, for his life was my life. If I took his soul, they would have swamped me with blades. But they were scared of what Hjartan would do to them if his son died, and so they did nothing. And I pressed the blade harder against Sven's throat, so that he gave a half-strangled yelp of fear. Behind me, Gelgil was at last hacked to death. I risked a glance and saw that Bolty's twin daughters were blood-drenched and grinning. "They're Hell's daughters," I told the watching men. And I was proud of that sudden invention, for Hel is the corpse goddess, rancid and terrible, who presides over the dead who do not die in battle. "And I am Thorkild," I went on, "and I have filled Odin's hall with dead men." Sven was shaking beneath me. His men seemed to be holding their breath, and suddenly my tale took wings and I made my voice as deep as I could.
"I am Thorkild the leper,"
I announced loudly.
"And I died a long time ago, but Odin has sent me from the corpse hall to take the souls of Hjartan and his son."
They believed me. I saw men touch amulets. One spearman even dropped to his knees. I wanted to kill Sven there and then, and perhaps I should have done. But it would only have taken one man to break the web of magical nonsense I had spun for them. What I needed at that moment was not Sven's soul, but our safety, and so I would trade one for the other.
"I shall let this worm go," I said, "to carry news of my coming to his father. But you will go first, all of you. Go back, beyond the village, and I shall release him. You will leave your captives here."
They just stared at me, and I twitched the blade so that Sven yelped again.
"Go!"
I shouted. They went. They went fast, filled with dread. Balti was gazing at his beloved daughters with awe. I told each girl they'd done well and that they should take a handful of coins from the table, and then they went back to their mother, both clutching.